Hello everyone, and welcome to the third episode of my Super Woden GP2 lab testing series, where I drive every car in Super Woden GP2 so you don't have to. Today we will focus on the G-Class, the second biggest class in the game, containing every vehicle between 201 and 300 horsepower. Starting by the 54th place, the Raven Dachshund that we saw in the previous episode. It gets a 1.13.076, but yeah, this car has absolutely no grip and it barely gets into this class with only 212 horsepower, so it lacks the power and the grip. Same thing for the 53rd place, which is the Cinder Audi, barely a tenth quicker. This car is exactly the same as the Dachshund. It suffers from the same issues and it's just not really good at all. Next, same issue with the Cinder Shark, though a second and a half quicker, 52nd place. This car barely gets into the class, so it's obviously at the bottom. Next, with a 1.10.719, we get the Milan Bourget, which is again barely entering into this class, and it's not capable of getting any good time, so it's just slow again. Okay, now in 50th place we have the first car that is G-Class stock, the Soup Moby Dick, which gets a 1 minute 10 and 608 milliseconds. It is slow. I think that's the least I could say for this car. It is pretty slow. And it doesn't have that many upgrades. It has a few, but it doesn't have many. Next in 49th we have the Nanwolf Laser, a big gap with the Moby Dick. It has a 109.196. This is a quite fun car to drive, but it really lacks of power to be useful. Fully upgraded, it's only 230 horsepower. The car is fun to drive, it's not very grippy, but it's fun. Then in 48th we have the Soup Gloria, which gets a 109.165. It's pretty close to the Laser. This car is very heavy. It feels heavy when you drive it. That's the main thing about this car. It doesn't have any engine upgrade, unfortunately. Next in 47th place, the Soup Fulgore. How do you pronounce that? This car gets a 109.133. So again, very close. It gets some decent upgrades, but it's really bad in terms of handling, unfortunately. Next we go back to the H-Class cars with the Cinder 2024, which can be upgraded to the G-Class. This car gets a 108.962 and it's very light, it's very responsive, but it's just not quick at all because of the lack of power. And that's about the same for the 45th place, the Cinder Colibri, which is almost exactly as fast as the 2024. It drives very similarly, it's the same price, the upgrades are quite similar. The price to upgrade the car is similar as well. The horsepower is similar, it's almost the same car, despite them looking very different. Next in 44th place, the Raven CV4R. I don't think you have any reason to put the engine upgrade on this car, because in the G-Class it's barely in, it's only 211 horsepower and you feel that on the lap time. Just keep it with the stock engine. Next in 43rd place, the Nanwolf Daton is yet another bottom-ish production car for the G-Class. This car is not gonna be very useful, but that's generally the theme of the bottom of the class anyway. All the classes, the bottom is not very useful, such as the Soup Madison, for example, which is also not very useful because it's better than the Gloria, but the thing is that the Gloria, you get it from the Junior Cup, so you don't really need to buy a new car. That's pretty expensive just for one event. Next in 41st place we have the Raven Soma, which is a bit disappointing. It's only 238 horsepower once upgraded. It just lacks of straight line speed, but otherwise it's one of the slowest options that you have for the Japanese 250 horsepower cars event. Next in 40th place, the Alia Rocky, which is I think the slowest car you can use for the Italian trophy or whatever that's called. This car doesn't handle well at all. It really doesn't have any grip. Next in 39th place, the Cinder Super High. So this car has a pretty good grip, but unfortunately it lacks the power. It has 265 horsepower once fully upgraded. It lacks the straight line speed to keep up with the quicker cars. Next we have the Raven Orano 6, which has a 107.433, which is only a few hundreds faster than the super high-end Rocky. This car is actually surprisingly quick. It comes from the H class. It was the second fastest production car in the H class, and even here it's pretty decent. Then in 37th place, the Alia Arcangelo gets a 1 minute 7 seconds and 59 milliseconds, and this car is basically a slightly better Rocky. It has almost the same upgrades, I think. It's just basically almost the same car but slightly better. Next in 36th place, the Cinder 910. This car gets a 106.607, and it's not grippy at all. It's a very heavy car and it really lacks of grip as well, so very tough car to drive. I do not recommend personally. Next in 35th place, the Sub Guayaquil with a 106.362. This car has a very good straight line speed, but however the grip is not there. So yeah, be careful with this car. It's really tough to drive. Next in 34th place, the Sub Mobilic Patrol. This one is kind of a Mobilic on steroids. It's much quicker, it has a lot more horsepower, and it's more grippy as well, so it's just a better version of it. But it's still in the mid-pack, despite all of that. Next we have the Cinder Fisher with a 105.77. This one lacks of power, I would say. It's pretty grippy, but the thing is that it's not very maneuverable. It's a bit heavy. It has the grip, but it's heavy, and it lacks a bit of power. And only 2 milliseconds faster, in 32nd place, we have the Raven Lancelot, which gets a 105.705, and this car is basically better than the Fisher in a way that it's more maneuverable, it's easier to drive. It's not faster, but it's easier. Next in 31st place, our first rally car, the Milan M130 Rally. I don't know if you remember, but in the H class, the M130 production version was the best production car in the game for the H class. And here, the rally version is the worst rally car of this class. Next in 30th place, the Super Mac Brown with a 105.394. This car is actually pretty decent. It has a good straight line speed and a surprising amount of grip for an American car. Next in 29th place we have the Cinder Gashdot, which gets a 105.311. This car is decent, I would say. It's pretty decent. It has decent grip. The straight line speed is just like every other car around it. Next we have another decent pick with the Sup Rogers in 28th place. It gets a 104.883 and it's a pretty grippy car. Next we have in 27th place the best pick for the Italian Road Car Festival, the Alia Testardo. The reason why it's the best for this event is because it has 2 engine upgrades and 3 tire upgrades. So this car is actually a lot more grippy than the other Italian cars of that class, so I do recommend to get this one. Next we have the Raven Snake 3, which gets its time from its tire upgrades and its power upgrades, just like the Testardo. It's also a pretty good car. It gets a 104.649. It has pretty much the same advantages as the Testardo. Next in 25th place we have the Sub Square SR, which I really recommend to upgrade, because stock it's not the best car to drive stock, but it has quite a lot of upgrades. Next in 24th place we have the Sup Moon R-Cap, which gets a 102.953, so much faster than the Square SR, and this car is only 219 horsepower surprisingly. This car is very stiff, but it has a pretty good straight line speed considering its horsepower. And next in 23rd place we have the Sup Rocker Z, which was a pretty good surprise for me to see that it gets a 102.762 for a production car. That's pretty good in the G class. This car is surprisingly grippy for a muscle car. After that we have our second worst rally car with the Alias 313. This car gets a 102.497 and its lack of upgrades make it painfully slow and painfully useless. quite the opposite of the 21st place, which is the Cinder Stieglitz, which is the absolute fastest production car in the G class. This car gets a 102.407. It's just very quick for a production car in this class. It beats the Rocker G by 3/10, and yeah, that's basically just the same as the Rocker G but slightly better. And now for the rally cars, we start with the Soup Ratter, which is the third worst rally car for this category. This car suffers from a huge lack of upgrades. It also lacks of top speed, and it's a bit slippery. So it's not the best car. It's one of the worst rally cars actually. Next, in 19th place, we have the Raven Dachshund, which is also just like the Ratter, not very fast. Except that this one is much more expensive because you need to buy all of the upgrades, which cost around 30,000 credits to get to the level of the Ratter. So yeah, 102.137. This car is meh, but at least it can participate in the last Junior Cup with the 250 horsepower limit, as opposed to the Vulcan, which is just above that limit with 255 horsepower, and it is actually the slowest rally car that is above that limit, so it makes it very useless. 101.869, it unfortunately has no upgrade, so yeah, it's just a bad car overall. Next, in 17th place, we have the Raven 892, which is unfortunately a pretty bad rally car again. You get it from the Muna Cup, but it's not very good. It really lacks the grip, I think. It gets a 101.345, which is only 25 milliseconds slower than the 16th place, which is the Milan Claude Kit car, which surprisingly have 60 less horsepower than the 892, but can still get a better lap time than it. It's a very balanced car. I would recommend it for the last Junior Rally Cup if you didn't only unlock it later during the 300 series, but it's still a good car. And next, in 15th place, it is back the Alia Mancini from the H class, upgraded up to here, 259 horsepower, and it gets a 1 minute 1 and 114 milliseconds. It still suffers from the same flaws as last time, except that here it's even worse because it lacks the power as well. And next, 7/10 ahead in 14th place, we have the Valentini, which probably gains its 7/10 in its horsepower. It has 9 more horsepower than the Mancini once upgraded. It still lacks of power compared to the top of the class though. Next, in 13th place, barely ahead, the Alia Star with a 1 minute flat and 333 milliseconds. This car is the one that you get from the Eisenhower Trophy, and it's stiff, but it's a decent car, I would say. You can do the entire 300 series easily with it, but it's still far from the best. Next, we have the Cinder 2024, which despite its lack of horsepower, 252 only after applying all the upgrades, it still gets a 1 flat 280. It's a pretty good car overall, nothing surprising here. Next, only 400 ahead, the Cinder Vermac Rally with a 1 minute flat 242. This car is not really grippy stock, and also it doesn't have a lot of straight line speed, but once upgraded it's fine, I guess. It is average. Next, we enter the top 10 with the Milan Rare Hero, which unfortunately has no upgrade for the engine or the tires, because it would be very useful. This car is actually pretty quick, only 265 horsepower, and it gets a 1 flat 240. It would be amazing if it had some upgrades, but unfortunately it doesn't, and it stands here in 10th place. Next, we have the Alia Da Vinci, which unfortunately has a pretty bad top speed, and even the transmission upgrade doesn't change that. Otherwise, it's still a decent pick, 9th place, the first sub 1 that we've seen yet, with a 59.769. But really its main issue is the top speed. Next, in 8th place, there is the Milan vs Lotto Rally with a 59.542. This car lacks of tire upgrades, which is what makes it not get to the top. Unfortunately, because this would have been a pretty good car with tire upgrades. You get it from the small Vanorama, so it's free kinda. One car that doesn't miss any tire upgrades though is the Raven Shukufuku Rally. This one has all the tire upgrades that you can get, jet, and it gets a 59076, so very good vehicle. Unfortunately, its second engine upgrade make it leave the G-Class barely by only 4 horsepower, which is kinda disappointing, but still, with only 270 horsepower, it's a pretty good car. Next, in 6th place, the Alia STRX, which is a pretty good rally car. It has very good grip, it is very maneuverable, but its top speed is what holds it back here. So not the best car in a track setting, but probably in rally it's closer to the top of the rally cars. Speaking of the top of the rally cars, the Lancelot is the next in 5th place with a 58060. This is a very good rally car. It is very grippy and it feels very light. It's very maneuverable, so it's a very good choice for rallying in general. Next we have the Raven Soma, which is also a very good choice. It gets a 57.957. This is barely better than the Lancelot. I would prefer personally the Lancelot, mainly because you can actually buy it. Because the Soma, you have to unlock it first, and you unlock it after you end all the 300 series. And also because the Lancelot is lighter, the Soma is very stiff, but it has the grip. But hey, look who's back! In 3rd place, the Alia Dancer Rally with a 57854. Even here it's insanely good. It has only 270 horsepower once all the engine upgrades are applied, but it's still hella fast. This car is just amazing. But ultimately, the king of rallying is the Milan Piero, which gets a 57.675. This car is just the goat for rally. It is very maneuverable, very grippy. It is sometimes a bit hard to control, but it's really the absolute fastest car for rallying. But for track racing, all of these rally cars are useless compared to the Zafir Turret, which is over a second faster than the Piero, with a 56.481. This car is just that good. It doesn't even need any upgrade to be that good, and it's pretty cheap. Actually, you don't even need to buy it because you earn it from one of the Argentinian rally series. So yeah, that's it for the G-Class. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will say it just now, just so it's said. The times that are presented here, they might vary from a track to another. Like maybe the Lancelot is better on a different track than the Piero. It could be that, because the cars are sometimes so close that it's really track dependent. So it's the Piero is the best choice in general for rally. The Zafir Turret though is the best choice for every track. That's not a debate, because it's just that quick. But yeah, sometimes it's very close and it's hard to tell which car is the best for this track. On this track, even on this track, sometimes they are so close that it's just maybe I got a better lap here and there. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. Maybe in some other context, some cars are in a different order than in this leaderboard. So yeah, also one thing I forgot to mention in the previous videos, the schedule is every Saturday and Wednesday I upload a video. So yes, I don't know when this video is gonna come because I pre-record everything, but if it's Saturday when this video comes, then see you next Wednesday for the F-Class. Otherwise, if it's Wednesday, see you Saturday. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content. You can also check out my Twitch channel where I stream racing game content and speedrun related content as well. And until next time, take care and see ya!